Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Lene Palmisano and I'm the chair of the Enterprise and Labor Relations Committee, and I'll call to order our regular meeting for July 6th, 2026. Before we begin, I'll offer a friendly reminder to all committee members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as another method to increase our accessibility, and all speakers, could you please be mindful of the rate of your speech so that captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Vita.
Present.
Schaefer.
Present.
Stevenson.
Present.
Chavez.
Present.
Shuktai is absent. Vice Chair Whiting.
Present.
Chair Palmisano.
Present.
We have 6 present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum, and I'll remind my colleagues that we'll be using speaker management, so please go ahead and sign in. Let's start quickly with our consent items, which I'll read for the record. Item number 1 is a resolution of our quarterly donations report. Item 2 is a resolution for gift acceptance from Co-Minnesota. That's for Councilmember Stevenson to attend an event. Item number 3 is a collective bargaining agreement with the firefighters, Local 82. Item 4 is a legal settlement, the workers' comp claim of Genevieve Hansen. Is there any discussion on these items? Clerk, we don't have the ability to get into queue. There we go. I don't see anybody in queue. I'm looking at your screen. Councilmember Vita.
I was just checking. Sorry.
All right. Seeing no one up for discussion, I'll move approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items carry. Next, we will have our public hearing, which is the appointment of our city assessor, Rebecca Malmquist, and I'll invite the mayor to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano, Vice Chair Whiting, members of the City Council. I'm pleased to nominate Rebecca Anderson Malmquist for the position of City Assessor. The City Assessor is the engine behind so much of the work that the city does, and the office is responsible for estimating the market value and classification of property. And this valuation is the foundation of property taxes, but also our ability to deliver services throughout our city. Since joining Minneapolis in 2014 and later being appointed city assessor in 2021, Rebecca has led an office responsible for the valuation and classification of 130,000 properties at a $64 billion market value. She's also demonstrated some key competency while navigating some extraordinary market volatility that occurred during and the aftermath of COVID-19. She led the department through one of the most challenging real estate environments probably in modern history. The impact of pandemic shifts, of remote work, of the different patterns that people have in navigating their day has resulted in some significant differences, to say the least, in how markets and buildings are ultimately classified. And she's managed to maintain a defensible assessment process that is grounded in market evidence. Normally when you're talking about a person's key accomplishments, you don't say maintained a defensible assessment as the primary point of kudos. But in the case of an assessor, that's the whole game. It's maintaining a defensible assessment that allows us to collect taxes and run our city, regardless of the external circumstances that may be taking place. That is an honorable job. It is an honorable profession. And our assessor and our assessor's department does it with really great skill. Minneapolis successfully defended those valuations through the appeals process, maintained compliance with state requirements, and helped ensure confidence in the integrity of the assessment system. Additionally, Rebecca represented Minneapolis on the national stage as well through International Association of Assessing Officers, serving as their president in 2024. And during her service, she founded the Women's Initiative Network, establishing the organization's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. and was awarded the prestigious Fellow designation in recognition of contributions to the profession. So these experiences have strengthened her leadership, has resulted in better governance for the city of Minneapolis, and I'm proud to put forward Rebecca Anderson Momquist because of the work that she's done through market uncertainty, the experience she has in steady leadership, and how essential she is to maintaining public confidence in her system. Council members, thank you for the time, and I ask for your affirmative vote.
Thank you. For everyone here in attendance, and especially those who may participate in our hearings or comment period, I need to offer this notice. These hearings are being recorded and broadcast. Both the recording and broadcast are classified as public data under the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act. Thus, your image and any testimony or information you provide will also be subject to disclosure under that law. That includes, but is not limited to, your attendance, your name, or personal details you might provide, as well as any testimony or comments you provide, which includes written submissions you might make, which are included in the record of this meeting. Our public hearing today is, as the mayor said, to consider the appointment of Rebecca Anderson Momquist to the position of city assessor. And with that, I will open the public hearing. We have 4 people signed up to speak so far. You're welcome to continue to sign up with the clerk over here to my right. We have 4 people signed up to speak. The first is Joan Gendler. Please. Oh, sorry, John Gendler, yes. Perhaps. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Mayor Fry. I am here to support the reappointment of Rebecca Momquist as City Assessor. I am a 50-year resident of Minneapolis. I currently live downtown in Ward 7. I'm a retired attorney with approximately 40 years of experience in the property tax area. I started with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and then went into private practice. I've known Ms. Momquist for many years. I met her when she was still working in Minnetonka. I worked with her there. She became city assessor for Minnetonka, and then I worked with her when she was chief deputy in Minneapolis. Ms. Momquist is extremely knowledgeable in assessing theory and assessing practice. She also knows real estate very well. One of the most positive things in all my experience with her is that all of our dealings were kept on a professional level. They were never personal. She never resorted to personal attacks on me or my clients, and she never took my appearance as a personal attack on her or on her office. When she became chief deputy in Minneapolis, there certainly was some improvement in the professionalism and the practices in the Minneapolis Assessor's Office, which has always been one of the leaders in the state in terms of competence. I know Ms. Momquist was very active in professional organizations. I saw her both at the state conventions of the Minnesota Association of Assessing Officers and at the IAAO, the International Association of Assessing Officers. And I want to, oh, okay. Okay.
But if you do have other comments, the clerk is happy to take them and to make them part of the public record.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'm sorry, I need to cut everybody off after 2 minutes. The second person invited to speak is Pat Chapman. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Pat Chapman, and I'm here on behalf of the Minnesota Association of Assessing Officers. Also, I happen to be the Ramsey County Assessor, and I've known Rebecca Momquist for a number of years, and I'm here to support her renomination. I've had the privilege of working closely with Rebecca for the past 10 years, Witnessed firsthand exceptional leadership, professionalism, and dedication to the assessment profession. Rebecca is widely respected throughout Minnesota and across the nation for her contributions to the property assessment community. Her service as president of the International Association of Assessing Officers is testament to the regard in which she's held by her peers. Throughout her career, Rebecca has been a strong advocate for professionalism, innovation, and continuous improvement in our industry. She constantly seeks opportunities to modernize practices, improve transparency, and ensure that the assessment system serves taxpayers fairly and effectively. One of Rebecca's greatest strengths is her ability to collaborate. She is a thoughtful listener who brings people together, values diverse perspectives, and works constructively with colleagues, local officials, taxpayers, and industry partners. Her collaborative approach has enabled her to build strong relationships and achieve positive outcomes when addressing complex and challenging issues. Rebecca's integrity, expertise, commitment to public service make her an exceptionally qualified to continue serving as the Minneapolis City Assessor. I am confident that the City of Minneapolis will continue to benefit from her leadership, vision, and dedication. I respectfully encourage you to support her reappointment.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Alex Guggenberger. Welcome.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mr. Mayor, thank you. My name is Alex Guggenberger. I am here on behalf of MWO as well. However, I am also the Anoka County Assessor. I've had the privilege of being the Anoka County Assessor for the last 10 years, but prior to my time at Anoka, I was actually started my career in assessment here at the City of Minneapolis back in 2010. Although my time didn't overlap with Rebecca, I know firsthand how vital the role of the assessor's office is in serving the residents and property owners as well as elected officials. While working as an assessor is not always glamorous, it is often underappreciated. It touches almost every corner of municipal operation that's out there. And strong leadership is essential to maintaining trust, transparency, and accuracy in the property tax system. What has always stood out to me about Rebecca is her steady, principled leadership. She leads with clarity, consistency, and deep respect for the responsibility entrusted to her office. In a field where accuracy matters and decisions have real impacts on people's lives, Rebecca has shown time and time again that she puts integrity at the center of every action. Rebecca is also someone who leads by example and embodies the spirit of public service. Her commitment to transparency, fairness, and open communication has strengthened trust in the assessment process, not just here at City Hall or with residents, but at the state, national, and international levels through her work at the Minnesota Assessors Association and the International Association of Assessors. For all of these reasons, I believe Rebecca's continued leadership is an asset to the City of Minneapolis, and I'm confident she will continue to serve the city with distinction. Thank you again for the opportunity to share my perspective.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Brian Kaiser. If I said that wrong, please correct me.
That's okay. Good afternoon, Chair Palmisano and board members or chair members. My name is Brian Kaiser. I am the Chief Appraiser with the City of Minneapolis Assessing Department. I've been chief since April 2015, which I believe makes me the longest tenured leadership team member. Years ago, I was at a Minnesota Association of Assessing Officers meeting in Fridley, and I got to sit next to Rebecca. And at this time, I did not know much about Rebecca. I actually knew most about her from her writings in the Minnesota Association of Assessing Officers publications. And I read one editor's note from there, and I just had the feeling that she should move from Minnetonka and come to Minneapolis. And I'm very grateful that after that day she did that and has now moved up to city assessor. Rebecca her passion for assessing is contagious, and she is focused on doing the right thing at all times, and she really cares about what really matters, our biggest asset, our staff. And so I want to keep the record clear. I've been in tax court a lot lately, so there are many things that Rebecca doesn't do or does do that does frustrate me, but at the same time, I want to give my full support to Rebecca for the city assessor position in the city of Minneapolis. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this public hearing? Hearing nobody else interested in speaking, I will now close the hearing and invite our nominee to provide a statement. Ms. Malmquist.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Palmisano, Vice Chair Whiting, committee members, and of course, Mayor Fry. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and thank you to Mayor Fry for the nomination and confidence in my continued service here as City Assessor. It has been one of the greatest privileges of my professional career to serve the residents, businesses, and taxpayers of Minneapolis. I am deeply appreciative of your consideration. I would be remiss, though, if I did not begin by recognizing the incredible team that I have the honor of leading. The success of the Assessor's Office is a direct reflection of the professionalism, expertise, and dedication of our team, many of which are here today. Over the last several years, they've maintained a high standard of excellence in an assessment administration, all while navigating one of the most dynamic and challenging real estate environments in modern history. They've done so under unprecedented scrutiny from taxpayers, elected officials, the media, and numerous stakeholders, while remaining steadfast in their commitment to fairness, equity, transparency, and public service. At the core of our work, it is fairness and equity. Every year we're asked to answer a simple but incredibly important question: what is this property worth? The answer to that question determines how the property tax burden is distributed across the city. It affects homeowners, renters, businesses, neighborhoods, and ultimately the resources available to provide city services. Fair and equitable taxation begins with fair and equitable valuation. Property taxes are Minneapolis's largest single source of the most stable and most flexible source of revenue. They fund the services residents rely on every single day: public safety, infrastructure, housing initiatives, neighborhood investments, and countless other programs that make Minneapolis a strong and vibrant city. The integrity of that system depends on public confidence that assessments are accurate, equitable, transparent, and based on objective market evidence. Unlike government functions that operate primarily behind a desk, our staff are out in Minneapolis neighborhoods nearly daily. They're visiting homes, businesses, construction sites, and redevelopment projects. They answer questions, explain the assessment process, listen to concerns, and interact directly with residents and property owners throughout the city. In many cases, they are one of the most visible representatives of city government that a property owner will ever encounter. Those interactions are about more than collecting data and valuing property. There are opportunities to build trust, not only in the property tax system, but in the city of Minneapolis itself. Every respectful conversation, every thoughtful explanation, and every commitment to fairness helps strengthen confidence in local government and the public services we provide at the city. As I look toward the future, I believe the work of the Assessor's Office is more important than ever. Minneapolis is navigating changes in its housing market, a challenging downtown office market, redevelopment patterns, and overall tax base. These changes create both challenges and opportunities. The future of the assessment administration is about more than determining property values. It is about helping taxpayers understand and increasing the complex property tax system. It is about providing objective market intelligence during times of uncertainty. It is about ensuring elected officials have access to the reliable data when making decisions that shape our city's future. And it is about maintaining public confidence maintaining public confidence that the property tax burden is fairly distributed and consistent. I also believe Minneapolis benefits from having assessment professionals who are deeply committed to the communities they serve. I have also been fortunate to serve the assessment profession, as was mentioned, at the local, state, and international level. I do not view this service as a personal accomplishment, however. but as an extension of my commitment to you, the city of Minneapolis, and to ensuring that our city remains at the forefront of professional excellence, innovation, and public service. Our office works directly with homeowners, renters, business owners, neighborhood organizations, developers, elected officials, and city departments every day. We understand the unique characteristics of Minneapolis neighborhoods, the opportunities and challenges facing commercial corridors, and the market forces shaping investment throughout the city. That local knowledge allows us to provide timely analysis, respond quickly to emerging issues, and support broader conversation around housing, redevelopment, economic development, and long-term financial stability. Minneapolis, as you know, is not just any other city. It is a city with unique neighborhoods, a changing downtown, complex redevelopment opportunities, and the most dynamic real estate market in the state. Those realities require local expertise, local relationships, and a deep understanding of our community. Looking ahead, my priorities are clear. We will continue developing accurate, equitable, and defensive valuations that provide the foundation for a fair property tax system. We will continue increasing transparency by expanding access to data, enhancing public reporting, and helping taxpayers better understand how values are determined and how these assessments fit into the broader property tax system. We will continue modernizing our systems, processes, and technology to improve efficiency, responsiveness, and service delivery. But perhaps most importantly, we will continue to meet taxpayers where they're at, whether through community meetings, neighborhood organizations, business associations, or one-on-one conversations. Our goal is to make the assessment process more accessible, understandable, and responsive. We recognize that assessment administration is very complex, and it is our responsibility to make that complexity easier to navigate. Above all else, I believe public trust is earned through accountability. Every interaction with the property owner is an opportunity to strengthen confidence in local government and confidence in the city. Every valuation is an opportunity to demonstrate fairness. Every question deserves a thoughtful answer. Every taxpayer deserves to know that their concerns are being heard. The assessor's office is often a quiet but mighty department. Much of our work happens behind the scenes, but it touches every property owner, every taxpayer, every neighborhood, and every city service. The equitable tax base we create helps ensure that the cost of local government is distributed fairly and consistently while providing the resources necessary to support the services that Minneapolis residents depend on. Few functions of government have a greater responsibility to balanced technical expertise with public trust. I'm proud of what our team has accomplished, but I'm even more excited about what lies ahead. The next chapter for our office is not simply about maintaining what we built. It's about continuing to earn the trust of taxpayers through accountability, transparency, innovation, and service. It's about providing city leaders with the information that you need to make informed decisions. And it's about ensuring that every property owner can have the confidence that they're being treated fairly. I believe deeply in this work, and I believe deeply in the city. I believe Minneapolis deserves an assessor's office that is transparent, responsive, locally engaged, and committed to excellence. So thank you for your opportunity to serve. I respectfully ask for your support and the opportunity to continue to serve the residents of Minneapolis. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Malmquist, for being here today and accepting the mayor's nomination. It does seem like it's difficult to hear through this. Can you confirm that it's on?
Madam Chair, the microphones are on. There might be an issue with the speakers
Okay.
in the room, but
I'll
the
be happy
broadcast
to
is still okay.
just speak up then. All right. I'll note we've received multiple other recommendation letters in the public record online for those who could not be, from those who couldn't be here today but wanted to weigh in on your reappointment. Is there any discussion? I do see you in queue, Councilmember Vital.
Thank you, Chair Palmer. I don't think these microphones are on, which means people won't be able to hear.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Councilmember Vita, they're on. The broadcast sounds okay.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
the room itself. We
You
can't hear
hear,
each
but
other.
people at home can. Or I
Correct.
care about the people at home. Thank you. Thank you so much, Assessor Malmquist. I'm proud to be here today for your nomination. I'm certain that you know that I support you wholeheartedly and your team. I think you're a great team builder. I do have some questions. I'm gonna ask those before I start fangirling all over you. Okay. What would you consider the biggest accomplishment as the city assessor so far?
Thank you. Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, I would say my biggest success is the team that we've built here at the city. We would be nothing without the amazing staff that we have. I'm very committed to professional development, encouraging all to go beyond just what the regular expectations are for licensure, but to continue to develop and enhance their skills. And I'm just so thrilled to have the team that we have.
That's great. And what about the biggest challenge?
Through the chair, Councilmember Vita, the biggest challenge for our office is understanding what we do and making sure that the property taxpayers understand assessments, understand their appeal rights, and can get their questions answered.
Thank you. One of the big things that come up in Ward 4, but on the north side as a whole, is that homeowners who've lived there for decades are seeing rising property values. And it's building equity, but many other residents are worried that the rise in property taxes will stop them from being able to live in their homes, that they won't be able to afford it soon. And, you know, these are neighborhoods that they help build. How do you approach this concern while fulfilling your responsibility to provide fair and accurate assessments?
Chair Palmisano and Councilmember Vita, it is through education and helping them understand how that valuations are determined, how they can appeal. It's also offering any special programs that the state offers that can help reduce the tax burden is the other piece. A lot of those special programs are not taken advantage of, and we need to continue to find ways to educate people so that they are taking advantage of, whether it's a circuit breaker program or other programs that are available to them.
And I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that's something I'm finding out a lot about too. And I would love to see in the future someone who is working directly with residents on accessing those programs. I don't know if that's through the city or how that would work, but there's certainly a lot of help out there that people aren't aware of. And that would be, you know, moving forward, that could really help a lot of seniors, especially in our communities, who don't necessarily communicate the way a lot of us do via text, email, you know, those sorts of things, with getting access to those services. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And then I just want to close by giving my comments about how much I appreciate working with you and your team. I've learned a lot about property valuations and how your office works. You know, I'm one of those people who just gets my letter in the mail a couple times a year and I just pay what you say, and that's it. But what you find out in this job is that a lot of people don't understand that paper that comes in the mail a couple times a year, highlighted in a color with a phone number on the back. They don't know what to do with it. And it has truly been a joy working with you and your team on getting folks the information they need, getting folks questions answered about how to show up for themselves. I love when we as a city enterprise empower residents, and that's what your department has done. They really have shown people how to speak up for themselves and how to access services around their home. And so I really have appreciated learning from you and learning how you and your team operates. You know, some of the words that came up and some things people said about you that spoke about you was that, you know, you're passionate, you have integrity, you're transparent. The entire department is transparent. You're a valuable leader. You're a collaborator. I think you're extremely thoughtful and reliable, and you use reliable sources when you are talking to people. I think you're a spectacular dresser And that means a lot to me. I'm pretty sure I text you and said, "What are you wearing, girl? Let's wear the same colors." But I think that matters when you're interfacing with the public, right? Like, you look like you're about the business that you're bringing to the people of Minneapolis, and I love that about you. I love, like, sometimes the details matter, and I think you check off every single detail. And you expect that of the people around you. And your team is great. You have a fantastic team full of communicators. I say this all the time. The team tells me how the leader is. And your team are communicators, and that's what we need in North Minneapolis. We get so many compliments after you all go out and knock doors and do your assessments. And it's just gotten better and better and better. I can remember 4 years ago, people being afraid. And now you have like a uniform and, like, people are out. We know who you are. We're giving out announcements ahead of time. Don't be afraid. You're not going to be recruited for a religious cult. That's just the city of Minneapolis coming to knock on the door, right? So it's great that you've taken your energy, your personal energy, and poured it into this team of people, and that pours out into the residents' homes in Minneapolis, and people are more welcoming and want to have conversations and want to learn more. So I am excited. I'm so excited to support you in your reappointment. You deserve this. I'm so grateful that you want to keep doing this work and you have a plan for the future. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your continued leadership and service.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Whiting is next.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano, and thank you, Director. I'll be quite brief here. I really appreciated your responses to our questionnaire. And you noted, you kind of concluded your questionnaire by recognizing the professionalism, resilience, and dedication of your team amidst a challenging couple of months and years. And I just want to do the same for you. And so I know we all appreciate your professionalism, resilience, and dedication to this city. And so I know we haven't had the time to sit down yet. And so I will get back to your email, but absolutely, I think thank you for what you do for our city, and deeply appreciate it, and excited to support your nomination.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I put myself in queue. Who says assessing can't be glamorous? I think that you show that every day. Ms. Malmquist, I've seen you be very patient and gently explain over and over again how your team values properties and how you use data to make fair assessments. And that's hard news sometimes to give an upset resident. I've seen you come and do presentations out in public that are, yes, glamorous, fun, and entertaining to be a part of. It is still the most popular event that I've done for a forum over the past few years anyway. As you highlighted during your local Board of Equalization, the local Board of Appeal and Equalization report, you and your staff value properties fairly and are open to discuss and change values when others can bring data that backs that up. I get lots of feedback in my office as well about the results of your evaluations, but not negatively about the assessors themselves. I think that's the mark of a good leader and a great team. And that's a team that you've brought out of the background in the past and really helped them to work to meet the council members in the areas that they're serving and the public alike. So thank you. I don't see anybody else in queue, so I will move approval of this item and ask for Councilmember Whiting has seconded it, and I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Vita?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Stevenson?
Aye.
Chavez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Whiting?
Aye.
Chair Palmisano?
Aye.
We have 6 ayes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you for everybody's time today. We're going to, Colleagues, the next item on our agenda is the first semi-annual report on complaints related to the city separation ordinance. I've asked staff to prepare a presentation, a brief one, in addition to the report, and I'll invite Katie Topinka, our interim deputy COO, to get us started. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano and committee members. I'm Katie Tupink. I'm the Interim Deputy City Operations Officer for Communications and Engagement. And as Chair Palmisano mentioned, I'm here to present the first report on the new reporting requirement for the separation ordinance. This is the first biannual report. The next will be in December. And there are a number of departments engaged in this work, which is why you have me here, since there's not sort of one department that's doing this work on their own. And I'll just name some of them here. We have NCR and OIRA, 311, Human Resources, Civil Rights, MPD, and the Attorney's Office. There are staff from HR and Civil Rights here to assist with questions as needed. So just as a reminder, this is the new reporting requirement that was included in the updated separation ordinance late last year. It's a requirement around complaints and discipline related to alleged violations of the city's separation ordinance, and it requires that summary data on the number and disposition of complaints be reported to the City Council by June 30th and December 6th. June 30th and December 31st. I don't know why I said December 6th. Anyway, of each year. And so this is that first report. And before we get into the numbers, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the complaint process itself. There are a number of ways that residents and also city staff can submit complaints if they believe a city employee has violated the city's separation ordinance. The simplest way for a member of the public is to go through 311. They, of course, could call, and they can also use the intake form that is on 311's website. There's a link on the report and issue page and also on the city's welcoming city page. That page also includes more details about the separation ordinance itself, what it means, and then how to file a complaint. If a resident files a complaint through 311, and if that complaint is about non-MPD personnel, then it is forwarded to the Human Resources Investigative Unit. If the complaint is about MPD personnel, then it's forwarded to the Office of Police Conduct Review. A complaint can also be filed through the city's ethics officer, and the link to the ethics officer page is on this slide as well. And it can also be filed directly with the Office of Police Conduct Review if it's about an MPD personnel. MPD Internal Affairs reviews the complaints against police officers that are filed internally. And a member of the public making a complaint about non-MPD personnel will receive confirmation that the complaint was received by the Human Resources Investigative Unit. They will try to reach out to the complainant within 3 business days of being assigned a case to confirm that it was received. A member of the public making an MPD personnel-related complaint with the OPCR can expect to be contacted by OPCR staff within 7 days of making a complaint. And I'll just note there are specific timelines that OPCR and MPD must follow for responding to complaints based on the settlement agreement, and those apply here for this process as well. With that, we'll go into the data. So to date, no complaints have been received in the Human Resources Investigative Unit or by the ethics officer. OPCR and Internal Affairs have received a combined total of 9 complaints. 8 of those are from community members and 1 was from city personnel. 4 of those complaints have been closed with no discipline, and the remaining 5 complaints remain open. So that is the summary data about complaints received to date. And with that, we are happy to take questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Colleagues, speaker management has been frozen, but now is unfrozen. So Councilmember Chavez, you're first in queue.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano. And if folks can't hear me, let me know. Thank you so much for the presentation. I was wondering if you had an update on the 5 complaints that remain open.
Chair Palmisano, Councilmember Chavez, I will turn to Mr. Fujisawa from OPCR or from Civil Rights to give that up.
Councilmember, through the chair, due to the Minnesota Government Data Practice Act, this is the extent of the update that we can provide, whether it's open or closed. So if those 5 are deemed open, they're still under investigation.
And not to get into the specifics of the case, but are we allowed to know the information of how long they've been open for?
I would defer to the city attorney on whether we can provide that level of detail.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano. Councilmember Chavez, can everyone hear me? Thank you. I would need to look into that. I suspect right now we don't have that data in front of us, but we can take that back and see if we can provide that level of information to you.
And do we know if everyone is contacted when they submit a complaint, an update on the case, or how does that work?
So I to the chair, council member, I can speak for the Office of Police Conduct reviews process. As mandated by the settlement agreement, we are required to provide a case number to the complainant within 7 days of receipt of complaint. And so anybody that files a complaint with our office receives that within 7 days, oftentimes less than that.
And then is there a required amount of time that there's supposed to be a response, or it's just that part?
Beyond the
7 days.
notification that it is open, it's dependent on the investigative process and that initial 30-day routing within intake.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. I guess the other questions I have isn't for you necessarily, it might be for someone else in the room, but wondering if there was ever any complaints of ICE staging on city property. And I guess the other component with this is that we're mixing both complaints of city staff about city staff, and then there's complaints of just violations of our separation ordinance, which is ICE staging on city property. So I guess trying to balance that up.
Chair Palmisano, Councilmember Chavez, this report is very specific to complaints against city employees. So I don't have an answer to that readily available, but we could follow up and check on that for you.
Cool. Thank you. Do we know if city public safety personnel was ever used in instances where investigations may have been in violation of federal immigration law or while ICE was present on scenes?
Chair Palmisano, Councilmember Chavez, again, I think we'll need to follow up with you separately on that question.
Okay. Thank you. Do we know if city public safety personnel was used while they were present with masked ICE agents or federal agents that were masked, or while they were with unmarked ICE vehicles or federal agent vehicles?
Chair Palmisano, Councilmember Chavez, we'll have to take that question back to MPD and follow up with you.
Okay. I guess one thing that I'm concerned about is there is one part of the city's separation ordinance when it comes to reporting that I believe the city has been violating in terms of not reporting to the city council. And I'm not talking about this report today because this is, I believe that we're in compliance with this report being given today and hopefully the one that we get in December. But in the separation ordinance, there was another component of getting updates to the city council that I brought up previously in a council meeting. I believe it was a committee meeting, and we have not been receiving that update, and I've expressed those concerns. In the murder of Renee Good, ICE agents were masked. In the murder of Alex Preddy, ICE agents were masked. When Julio Cesar Sosa Solis was shot in the leg in North Minneapolis, ICE agents were masked. In these instances, we had unmarked ICE agent vehicles and unmarked federal agent vehicles on scene, and there was never a report given to the city council on that. And that's part of the city separation ordinance. And I guess this is one of the times I'm able to express, my frustration, because we haven't been given those reports where I would be able to ask questions about these instances. So now I have the opportunity to use the violations component that has been reporting to us where I get to talk about some of these violations. So I guess I would like to know when the city council is going to be given those updates on these other instances. And it might not be for you, but I think that we have not received a single report and it's July.
Chair Palmisano, Councilmember Chavez, you can take that information back to the Office of Community Safety and respond back to you with when you may be expected to hear a report on that.
Thank you. And the last question I have is I want to know where the Minneapolis Police Department was the day that Julio was barricaded inside of a house, the day he was shot by ICE in the leg. Where was MPD? I was on scene and I saw crowd control happening. Do we know if Julio was inside the house while ICE was doing crowd control that day? Who then he was, deemed innocent in a case where ICE violated his human rights. So I want to know where MPD was that day. Were they were on scene, but were they there while Julio was shot and proven innocent?
Chair Palmisano, Councilmember Chavez, again, I don't have an answer to that, but can take that back for you.
And I guess I appreciate it, Director Topinka. You said interim DCO. I guess I'm asking all these questions because we haven't had the opportunity to be able to ask these questions when the separation ordinance, when we passed it in December, talked about updates at full council when some of these instances that I'm bringing up today would have been able to happen. And I guess this is the first time I have the opportunity to ask these questions. And I hope that, as I mentioned in council before, that we get those updates as soon as possible that I've sent emails about as well, because it's important. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez. These are very specific inquiries. When we went through agenda setting, I had said that since this was the first time this was getting reported, that basically we had to do a presentation if to just explain the process and all the different departments that are involved. But I know that they can follow up as interim COO Topinka has mentioned. Councilmember Stevenson, did you intentionally remove yourself from queue, or is there something wonky with speaker management?
I did, but I was just about to re-add myself.
There you go. Go ahead.
I just had one question. Where would we get the information about complaints made about city parking lots being used by ICE? Would that be in these reports in the future, or is that something we should reach out about?
I'll mention that I think Councilmember Chavez knew that is not something that would be in one of these reports, because this is specifically complaints about employees, city employees that have violated that ordinance. So this wouldn't be part of that report. But Director Topinka?
Chair Palmisano and Councilmember Stevenson, that's correct. This is specifically about city employees that have violated the ordinance. We couldn't check back with 311, though, to find out about complaints that have been submitted related to ICE staging in parking lots. And then we can also check in with MPD to see if they have anything in their own records as well. So those would be the two sources for that information.
Okay, thank you.
And at least pertinent to my own ward, that would also be the park board, because a lot of that happened on park board property, the ones that I directly received information about. Seeing no further discussion, I will ask the clerk to please file this report, and I know you will follow up on the other questions as asked. With that, colleagues, we've completed all items on our agenda, and we will now consider the request for a closed session, which is to receive a briefing on strategy for labor negotiations involving the Police Officers Federation. Before I move to close the meeting, I'll recognize our city attorney to provide the legal basis for the requested closed session.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano. The next item on the agenda is consideration of strategy for labor negotiations involving the Minneapolis Police Officers Federation. Consideration of negotiation strategies or discussion and review of labor negotiations proposals may be held in a closed session pursuant to Minnesota statutes, section 13D.03. In addition to closing the meeting to the public, a majority of the committee must vote to close the meeting. In order to close the meeting to the public, a majority of the committee must vote to close the meeting. In deciding whether to close a meeting for labor negotiation strategy, the committee should weigh the right of the public to know what its government is doing against the need of the city to reserve the confidentiality of its labor negotiation strategy.
Thank you. I will move to close our public meeting as authorized under open meeting law, specifically Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.03, for the purpose of receiving a briefing on strategy for labor negotiations involving the Police Officers Federation. May I have a second to that motion? It was seconded by Councilmember Whiting. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Vital?
Aye.
Schaefer? Is absent. Stevenson?
Aye.
Chavez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Whiting?
Aye.
Chair Palmisano?
Aye.
We have 5 ayes.
That carries. For the viewing public, I'll note that the broadcast of this meeting does continue, and the committee will reconvene in the public after we've concluded this closed session. Thank you. All right. Comms, we are ready to reconvene the public portion of the meeting. The time is now 3:09 p.m. and the Enterprise and Labor Relations Committee has reconvened an open session following our closed session. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to prove the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Vita.
Present.
Schaefer is absent. Stevenson.
Present.
Chavez.
Present.
Chugtai is absent. Vice Chair Whiting.
Present.
Chair Palmisano.
Present.
We have 5 present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. With that, we've concluded all business to come before the committee today, and without any objections, we are adjourned. Thank you.